Guy, maybe people have questions.
Okay. So we'll open it for discussion, and I would especially like to welcome past conveners if they want to reflect and join, and to share some of their experiences and to comment from their vision of jurisprudence in Oxford to do so. But first, maybe I would like to ask a question about the future, since this topic didn't come up in your talks. But how you think jurisprudence in Oxford might evolve, and I would like to bring two topics which might have some effect over the doing of jurisprudence in Oxford. One of them is the globalization, in the sense that the world is a smaller place nowadays, and Oxford stops becoming such a unique place in and of its own, to some extent. And since we are all a small global village, then does Oxford still have this kind of unique place? The second thing is the kind of segregation of disciplines that we see nowadays. How disciplines are more and more divided into sub-disciplines, and every discipline starts hedging themselves and distinguishing themselves from other disciplines. So nowadays we have a lot of discussions in the philosophy faculty on applied philosophy, which some people might think just is law, in a sense. So how does this kind of segregation and people closing within their own group will affect the doing jurisprudence in Oxford?
Tony, do you want to say anything about the future?
I think on the whole, rather than greater and greater specialization, but not greater and greater separation. That's what I would want to say. In fact, one looks much more across at different disciplines in pursuing one's own discipline. What is true is that specialization has enormously increased. I don't know if anybody here realizes, but when I came up to Oxford, 46, 48, most law tutors taught all the law subjects, possibly with the exception of international law, which was even then regarded as a speciality. But you should teach everything. And Stalibros, Vice Chancellor, law tutor at Brasenose, said, if the students are supposed to answer 9 papers and so forth, well, we should be able to teach 8 or 9 papers. Now, that was the atmosphere. Of course, it's gone completely. But I feel, looking back on it, that the gain, of course, of being taught by specialists and so forth, also involved a loss of a sort of idea of a general legal culture, which I think is extremely valuable and shouldn't be lost sight of entirely. And of course, it's involved looking at other subjects as well, but also looking across the law, at different branches of the law. I don't think we should lose that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that lawyers had a more ready comparative instinct and historical instinct 50 years ago than they do today, and it's a reflection of of this specialization.
But I agree. It doesn't militate against cross-fertilization. I mean, each of us works in a narrower range, but often it's an interdisciplinary range. And really constraints of time prevent you from going to all the conferences that are interesting and reading all the subjects that are intrinsically appealing. But even so, I find myself knowing half a dozen different intellectual communities in my field. It's just I go to conferences in moral philosophy and conferences in criminal law and talk to slightly different groups of people at each of these. So I don't think in that way horizons are narrow. Now, so your other question about globalization, and it included the the presupposition of Oxford's erstwhile specialness, which I sort of dispute. I mean, I think of all of these, intellectually I think that the rise and fall of universities in particular disciplines at particular times is somewhat accidental, and that it's neither endowed nor installed by the masons in our buildings that jurisprudence should thrive here, nor has it thrived for a long time. Again, you can see I'm a philosopher, I don't think 56 years is a very long time. But it hasn't thrived for a particularly long time. Before that, there was no particular tradition of philosophical thinking about law, and maybe there won't be again. I don't know. Vienna had it good at one point, and really, these things come and go. We should enjoy it while we can, really. And this, I hope, it's the place to be, or the place to be in this era, where an era is, a mere 300 or 400 years. You guys are the next 20, say.